Hello everybody and welcome to Tiger Tales, a place where you'll find stories and fanfictions written and read to you by your host, me, Tai Tiger. Today we're diving back into Power Rangers Cyberforce V2. If you're new here, then Power Rangers Cyberforce V2 takes place on Universe 91, a complete flip in reality to Power Rangers Universe 19, which is a podcast where you'll listen to stories written and read to you by Cosplay Dude 637, my parabatai. He writes Power Rangers and Kamen Rider stories that are based in Universe 19. One of the stories is Power Rangers Cyberforce. I have flipped the story and told a what if. What if the Newman kids never teamed up with Haley and Justin and never formed the Cyberforce Rangers? What if they never moved out of Angel Grove? What if Justin had to make a new team and Haley lost her first team of Rangers, and this story here is the repercussion of that? It's a fanfiction of a fanfiction. That being said, let's dive in. The last time we saw the Rangers, a new Ranger had been formed, thanks to our overseer William Cranston. So, that being said, let's go with Power Rangers Cyberforce V2. Chapter 8, A Trap for the Rangers. Midori sat there watering flowers, stood outside her mother's flower shop. A young couple walked up and gazed over the collection of bright and colourful flowers, and she walked up to them. "There is more inside," Midori told them with a small smile. "Thanks," the girl replied, and dragged her boyfriend into the flower shop. Suddenly, her morpher started beeping. She activated it and a holographic screen projected a map with a blinking red dot. She then dropped the watering can and ran to said location. Upon reaching the location, she found a building site with all the builders running away, and a bunch of stickers running through it. Midori hopped the fence and ran into the building site. She stepped into what was almost a finished building, and ran up onto the first floor to find the stickers crashing the place. She ran up and kicked one sticker into another. She blocked an attack, then swung her foot, knocking the sticker back. She then double jabbed a sticker in the chest. She then pulled one up in close and struck it a few times before leaning forward and kicking a sticker in the chest, knocking it back that was stood behind her. Then one sticker slashed her, knocking her back. She fell down, rolled backwards, and climbed to her feet quick. "I guess it's time to go Sage," Midori muttered.
"Scan DNA,"
Midori called out as she waved her hand over her morpher. The morpher started glowing a sage green.
"Cybercharge,"
Midori called out, and she slammed her hand down on her morpher, and in a flash of light, Midori was morphed into the Sage Cyberforce Ranger. The Sage Ranger jumped up and kicked a sticker in the face, knocking it back. She then flipped over one and then swooped down and tripped it over with her heel. She then jabbed one sticker in the torso several times before running up across the wall. As she landed, she pulled the sticker over her shoulder, flipping it over herself as it landed on the floor. Then she jumped up and split kicked two more. She stood there victorious. Then suddenly an energy blast flew at her and hit the Sage Ranger straight on. Sparks flew off of her as she dropped to the ground. She stumbled up to her feet to see Dr. H stood there. "Hello, Sage Ranger," Dr. H snarled. "Doctor, I don't have an appointment," the Sage Ranger mocked. "Trust me, this visit's on the house," Dr. H chuckled. Then suddenly Cyberfear appeared behind the Sage Ranger and swung his sword down, slashing the Ranger down, knocking her to the floor. She dropped to the floor and demorphed. Midori laid there unconscious. "Now what?" Cyberfear asked his boss. "Now phase 2 of my plan," Dr. H said, stood there grinning. Ace and Daisy was walking through the marketplace. Daisy stopped by a plant store with a various array of flowers. "I was thinking of getting some flowers for Haley's desk as a well done for the grand reopening, you know," Daisy said to Ace. "Good idea, babe," Ace replied with a small smile. Daisy was looking around when suddenly their communicator went off. Ace and Daisy bolted out of the market and down an alleyway and answered their communicators. "Go for Ace," Ace said into his watch. "Guys, we have a lot of virus activity down by the new construction yard, down David and Frank Street. It may be Cyberfear," Haley replied. "We're on it," Daisy said. "Okay, good. Timothy is already heading there," Haley told them. Ace and Daisy hit their communicators and both teleported away. Then they arrived at the construction yard with an almost ready building. Timothy then teleported next to them. "Sorry, I just got out the shower," Timothy muttered. Ace and Daisy looked at Timothy's wet, dripping hair. "Come on, let's go," Daisy said with a small smile and a slight eye roll. They walked into the building and automatically dropped down to their fighting stances as they came into sight of Cyberfear and a young woman tied up. "Hello, Rangers," Cyberfear roared in glee. "Guys, handle him. I got the girl," Timothy muttered. "You got it, bro," Ace nodded. "Ready, boys?" Daisy asked. "It's morphing time," Ace called out.
Scan DNA!
Ace called out as he waved his hand over his morpher. The morpher started glowing silver.
Cybercharge!
Ace called out as he slammed his hand down on his morpher, and in a flash of silver light, Ace was morphed into the silver Cyberforce Ranger.
Scan DNA!
Daisy called out as he waved her hand over her morpher. The morpher started glowing white.
Cybercharge!
Daisy called out as she slammed her hand down on her morpher, and in a flash of white light, Daisy was morphed into the white Cyberforce Ranger. Scan DNA! Timothy called out as he waved his hand over his morpher. The morpher started glowing orange. Cybercharge! Timothy called out as he slammed his hand down on his morpher, and in a flash of orange light, Timothy was morphed into the orange Cyberforce Ranger. The Silver Ranger ran straight at Cyberfear and jumped up into the air and slammed his fist into the monster's arm. Then he kicked the monster in the side. The White Ranger came running up and flipped over the Silver Ranger and Cyberfear, landing behind them. Then she jabbed the monster in the back multiple times before running up its back and slamming her fist into its head. The Silver Ranger then swung his fist up, smacking it in the face. The Orange Ranger then ran up and summoned his cyber shield and threw it. It bounced off the wall and cut the rope. The girl dropped to the floor, but the Orange Ranger slid across the floor and caught the girl in his arms just in time. He then ran to the entrance of the building, pulled the rest of the rope off the girl and the tape off her mouth, and placed her on her feet. "Thanks," the girl said. "Yeah, you're welcome," the Orange Ranger replied. Then he clicked on. He recognized her. "You get home safe, okay?" the Orange Ranger muttered to her. The girl nodded, then ran off. The Orange Ranger stood there for a minute stunned. He then turned around and ran back into the building. He pulled his shield out of the wall and threw it at Cyberfear. He then ran into the fight. Midori ran around the corner and leaned over to catch her breath. She then waved her hand over her morpher and morphed once again into the Sage Ranger. She scaled up the wall and jumped into the second floor of the building. She looked down the half-built elevator shaft to see the Rangers all being struck down by Cyberfear with his sword. She jumped down and landed on the ground, and leapt forward, landing between the Ranger trio and Cyberfear. "Need some help?" the Sage Ranger asked. The trio jumped up and grouped up with her. "Thanks for joining us," the Silver Ranger nodded. "Let's kick this Megazord free into next week, shall we?" the White Ranger barked. The four Rangers ran at Cyberfear. The Orange Ranger threw a shield. Cyberfear caught it, but then the Sage Ranger jumped onto the shield and placed one foot on the shoulder of the monster, then with her other foot swung it around and kicked the monster in the face. Then the White Ranger aimed her blaster and shot the monster, making him stumble back. The Orange Ranger then landed and grabbed his shield and yanked it out of the monster's grip, then smashed it into the monster's torso several times. The Silver Ranger then landed behind the monster and shot his blaster several times, then spun kick around and kicked him in the back. Cyberfear then stumbled forward and then stabbed his foot onto the ground as he put his sword next to him. "Enough of this," Cyberfear barked. Then he scratched some of his paint off his arm and revealed the kanji symbol for growth, and suddenly he became gigantic. His body ripped through the building, shredding the half-built concrete structure to rubble. The four Rangers all ran away, evading the building falling over them. The Orange Ranger used his shield to break a chunk of the building that almost crushed them. They all ran into the clear, and the Silver Ranger pressed a button on his communicator. "Haley, we're gonna need some Zords," the Silver Ranger barked. "They are ready, Ranger Silver," Haley replied. "Alright guys, let's call on the Zord power," the Silver Ranger told his team, and the Orange and White Rangers both nodded. Then all three of them pressed the Zord icon on their morphers. "Upload Cyber Zords," all three Rangers called out. "Cyber Gorilla," the Orange Ranger called out, and the Cyber Gorilla Zord came charging in.
Cyber Hammerhead!
The Silver Ranger called out, and the Hammerhead Zord came diving in.
Cyber Chameleon!
The White Ranger called out, and the Chameleon Zord came crawling in. The three Rangers jumped into their Zord cockpits. "Cyber Zords, combine!" they all called, and pressed the combination button on their control panels. Then the chameleon Zord's tail came off and the Zord, revealing a robotic foot. The foot extended out and straightened itself. The chameleon Zord then opened its mouth and a connection joint extended out of its mouth. The hammerhead Zord's tail folded outward and clipped onto the side of the Zord, revealing a connection joint. Then the head detached from its body, revealing a robotic foot. The foot extended and straightened itself. Then the gorilla Zord's arms straightened and its huge fists folded inward, and small robotic hands came out of the forearms, revealing robotic arms. The gorilla's head folded into the torso and a robotic head popped out, with it being silver with a red helmet with golden features. Then the gorilla's legs folded up and clipped onto the back of the torso. The two connection joints extended from the bottom of the gorilla, and the two other Zords attached to the joints, becoming legs. Cyber Primal's Megazord, ready, the Rangers called out. Cyberforce stood there, a monstrous tangled mess of the original Cyberforce Megazord stood before the second made new Cyber Primal Megazord. Cyberforce ran up to the Megazord and swung his sword down. The Megazord jumped back and dodged the attack. It then swung its fist, striking the Cyber Megaforce monster in the chest several times, before uppercutting the monster. Cyberforce doubled back. He then threw his hand out and a green energy ball flew out of its palm and struck the Megazord and hit it head on. "Guys, let's kick this thing into overdrive," the White Ranger suggested. "Good thinking, babe," the Silver Ranger nodded. Then all three Rangers pressed the weapon button, and the Megazord pulled out its crossbow and took aim. "Primal crossbow, final strike," the Rangers called out. Then the Megazord pulled the trigger, and an energy bolt flew from the crossbow and struck Cyberfear. The monster dropped one knee. Then a huge explosion erupted from the monster, and the Rangers all jumped out of their Megazord and landed next to the now normal-sized Cyberfear. "You won this round, Rangers. But do not threat. I will return. Do not get used to the taste of victory." Cyberfear grunted, then he teleported away. The three Rangers cheered on their victory, then noticed the Sage Ranger had disappeared. The three Rangers demorphed and stood there rather confused. "Why doesn't she ever want to talk to us? Or let us help her or whatever?" Timothy asked, annoyed. "I don't know, man. I guess she has her reasons," Ace replied. On a building opposite the construction yard, the Sage Ranger stood watching. Then she demorphed and Midori watched as the trio teleported away. "So, you're the museum workers, huh?" Midori muttered to herself. Cyberfear teleported into the base and walked up to Dr. H. "Well done. With that small fight, I got what I needed to understand how the Megazord combination function works." "Good job," Dr. H told him without moving her gaze from her screen. "Thank you, my queen," Cyberfear said with a bow. "Hey boss, are you working on our Zords or what?" Derek muttered as he walked into the laboratory. "I am, yes, and they will be ready soon. So if you don't mind, prepare yourself and get the girls. Phase 3 is about to start," Dr. H barked. "Yeah, okay, of course," Derek grinned. Then he walked away and found the girls sat there chatting. "Yo, Doc needs us. We got our Zords," Derek grinned. Both the girls stood up and walked up to him. "Oh, goody." Rose smiled. "About goddamn time," Trixie muttered. Then the three Virus Rangers headed for the Zord Bay to find out what Dr. H had created. And there you have it, guys. We have another chapter of Power Rangers Cyberforce V2. Hope you guys have enjoyed this chapter. Again, another small one. I do apologise about all the small chapters, but hey, I'd like to take this minute and shout out Cosplay Dude 637, my Parabatai. He's the original creator of Power Rangers Cyberforce. It is his own original story, so go check that out on Power Rangers Universe 19 podcast, with the rest of his Power Rangers stories and Kamen Rider stories as well. This again is a flip side on his universe, so there is going to be a lot of differences, and I plan on expanding this as well. And if Cosplay Dude is hearing this story, then this is the first time he's hearing of this, but I do plan on expanding Universe 91 as I have a few more stories to correlate with this. Anyway, with that being said, I want to shout out the third member, me and Cosplay Dude 67 being the first two, the third member of the Three Ranger Bros Studios, that being Mark, the Red Cornish Ranger. Go check him out with Nerds Through Comics, the podcast, where you can listen to him adapting great, amazing storyline comic books, which none of us can be bothered to read, adapted into audio dramas, which you can listen to, which he does a fantastic job of doing it with a full voice cast and everything. And he's also now uploading his own original Power Ranger storyline called Rob Britannia, which I can't wait to listen to more of as well. We're in association to Zero to Hero. Jim and Billy, the Balkan Scholar Podcasting, are fantastic dudes, amazing podcasts, very fun to listen to, and they interview people and they talk about lots of different fandoms, a lot of Power Rangers of course, but a lot of other fandoms as well, so you might want to go check it out. That being said, like the video, don't forget to subscribe if you're new around here, and if there's something that you loved hearing, then of course subscribe so you can always follow for more. That being said, I shall see you guys real soon.